permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here, Fred Shaft.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, Fred!
Welcome to episode 454 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Sunday, June 30th, 2024 in the evening. Coming to you from Numbergun, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Grizzly Bear, Tyler Knife, and SSJ5 Goku. And by our patrons of the week, Samurai Flea and Scoos. You can go to patreon.com/coinconcede to get perks like early access to new episodes and one-on-one coaching sessions, and of course help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, as of recording this, it is not terribly long after we recorded our last episode. We've got some vacations coming up, 4th of July weekend, and a card reveal to do. So we are pre-recording this, Sunday, June 30th, as we mentioned, and that means Life and Ladder is not a whole lot. For me, not much more has happened. Still playing Elden Ring. I played a little bit of Twist, tried Cthulhu, still felt a little weak, but it was definitely more viable.
Yeah, I mean, I Stalk of Cthulhu helps a little bit.
A lot. I like so much.
Yeah, I didn't play Cthulhu. I played one game in Azoth, and I think I won, and I never wanted to play it again because the games were so long and just drawn out. But I played a little. I played a little bit of Bran. I got caught by someone in Blister Guy's Discord playing Hunter, and I said it's not Hunter, it's Bran. It's fine. It's not. There's not Hunter cards in it. It's okay. But yeah.
But that is how I feel when I get caught playing something other than Priest. Especially one time I ran into someone from the Discord. This was when Naga Priest was a thing. They were playing Naga Priest and I wasn't. And I was so ashamed of myself. I had to message them. I'm sorry. I do need to try other decks for this podcast.
I guess my equivalent is if I'm playing something that's very meta.
My main piece of advice for this episode is that you should take your medications as directed by your physician, which is not what I did this morning. Not on purpose, but I was just sitting there wondering, why is my brain not working? And why am I losing all of these games? And I spent this entire month in top 500 or very close to, being very mindful about when I was playing, not playing when tilted, playing when I was able to focus, really digging into decks, even when I was playing different decks, making sure that I follow all our advice and all our evergreen episodes about really looking at the deck first, understanding the deck list. And then today I didn't do any of that, and I am no longer in top 1K. I am still in 11x range, so objectively, nothing terrible has happened, but I was looking forward to trying to get that top 500 finish.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not in the cards today. I still was mostly on Zarimi Priest getting really tilted by Doomkin. It's not actually a terrible matchup. It's just Doomkin is really tilting. I don't think I have to explain why to anyone. I did have a game. I know that I must have messed this up. I had a game today. I didn't get a super fast start versus an Excavate Rogue. I was on Zarimi. I generated a Shutter Block from my Amonthul, who had lived for multiple turns. I played the Shutter Block and then I played Marin, so I got to actually do the rogue thing. I had so many things in my deck. What I really needed was my second Glowstorm Gyroworm, because then that, with the mini from the Shutter Block, which I was saving for this, would have been lethal, but it was the last card in my deck. It was literally the last card in my deck,
Oy.
which was very sad. But I feel like with all of those things that I generated from Marin, from the Crown. There must have been a way somewhere. I had big board, like every turn, they just kept healing just enough. When I finally had the biggest board, then they had equality off of something, because of course they did. So after that, I finally went, okay, I should stop. And then a little bit later, the light bulb went off. Maybe I didn't take my meds this morning, and that explains everything. I took my meds, and suddenly everything was good again. And left me going, how did I function before this? So I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I also tried a little bit of the like mech rogue that started floating around, which is basically the Cove location plus Spark Bots, because the Spark Bots also become 5/5 if they're in the next thing that you play, even though you're not summoning them as a separate minion. So you can do this incredible burst damage. You have ways to give your stuff stealth. You have Mimiron is really important to the deck and can just live for a really long time. I also definitely was misplaying those games. It is very powerful against Druid, in part because they Doomkin you, and you're like, well, I don't need mana anyway. Who needs mana? I'm a rogue. So everything costs very little. And so if you are struggling against Druids, you might want to give that a try. I'll put the deck list in the show notes and play it when you have a brain online. It's not the hardest deck ever, but it is, Hearthstone requires some strategy, even when rogue.
Well, I don't have that excuse because I did take my meds this morning and I have not been having a great day. I've been just like bouncing around 2000 Legend for like the past like couple of days. And I've been mostly playing the Druid. I've had a couple of times where I've said, screw this, I'm tired of the mirror. Let me try anything else. So I've tried, there was like a Rainbow Death Knight that I kept running into that I tried, and I'm glad that those people are able to make it work because I could not. I was playing Shopper Demon Hunter of all things.
Oh my.
Because I got beaten up by that, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is good. Maybe it is, but not in my hands. I played 2 flavors of Handbuff Paladin, one Excavate, one not Excavate. That at least I know how to pilot. But the lists have gotten greedier. They're running Marin, they're running Yogg, they're running. I've had a couple of games where I just got the entire top end of my deck in my hand, in my opening hand, and couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I have those feels.
Sometimes you get everything, and the Druid just gets the ramp, and nothing that you do matters anyway. So then I went back to the Druid, and I'm like at like 2200 Legend right now. And I'll probably play some more after we're done recording the podcast and see which I'm sure will be, given that it's going to be after 10 o'clock at night after my meds have worn off, I'm sure those will be quality games that will get me over the line. That's absolutely how that works for sure. But yeah, I've been I've definitely been a little bit tilted at points this weekend. I was watching The Bear with Maureen and one of the daughters, and I rolled off like something ridiculous. I don't even remember what it was, but I just slapped my leg and like scared both of them. Just because like I didn't scream or anything. I just I just slapped my knee, and it was just a sudden noise that was out of nowhere because nobody knew that I was like, having an existential crisis over on the couch.
I have scared my cat this weekend.
Yeah.
For similar reasons.
But I mean, I did run into Electra Sheep City from Squelch on ladder, both of us playing Druid, and the Druid mirrors are ridiculous. We had it's the kind of thing where like, which way did the truck come from at the end of it, right? Because it's just like a bunch of nonsense happens and one person has slightly more nonsense than the other person. There was one point where we were trading Yogg's, where he stole my Ziliax, I stole his Yogg to like break up to kill his Ziliax, and like I'm running Fizzle now for the mirror. I don't know if it's right or not, but I because there's like a 30th slot in the deck that one of the decks is running Park Panther, and Park Panther's like fine, but I'm like, I'm not the kinds of decks that I'm running into that I'm getting rolled by, or like other Druids. like Death Knights, right? Where Park Panther's not really helping me. I'm like, fine, let me just try Fizzle. Right. And like, so I fizzled in a hand. So I had like multiple like Zarek's crowns and like, of course, like my Zarek's crowns roll me like Nosdormu and Zola. Right. And my opponent's Zarek's crowns get them things that are considerably better. I've seen so many Onyxia Broodmothers off of Zarek's crown this weekend, like multiple times. And it's like, why? Like, why that legendary of all of them? Is that the one that I'm getting offered like over and over again? Like, if it's often enough that I like recognize it and I'm noticing it, that I'm getting it a lot, like it's a lot. And it's like, why am I getting that? But it's, that and Nosdormus, and my opponents are getting like Sky Mother Aviana is what Sheep got. So he got two Sky Mother Aviana and Kolagarn. In the same turn, by the way.
Ooh.
So, those were the offerings. And it's like, well, I'm not beating those ever. Like, so I've had some, I've definitely had some games where I've been on the giving end of that. And it's kind of what's frustrating about it, is that it just feels like it's not so much there's skill involved, but it's also, there's just like so much RNG that it's just like, I don't really feel like there's something that I can just like jam a lot and like climb consistently with, because I've mastered the deck, because it's just like there's so much that's out of your hands. But I guess that's just kind of the nature of what we're dealing with right now. So, but enough about the current meta, because we have a little bit of news and then we have to talk about the meta to be. So why don't we do that?
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So again, as we said, we just recorded 2 days ago. There's not a whole lot of news that's come out, except for one sad thing, which is that Superblindman passed away over the weekend on Saturday night. Unfortunately, I believe he was dealing with cancer, and then there were some complications that came along with that, and he'd been sick for a little while, and then unfortunately is no longer with us. And Superblindman was a real quite a pioneer in the vision impaired Hearthstone space. Like, there is no support built into the Hearthstone client for screen readers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was built, the client was 10 years ago. Accessibility was not as much of a primary concern when developing a game then as it is now. And even then, that was being built out as like a prototype effectively that just kind of took off. So there were a lot of things that were very rough in the early clients anyway. And so like all the support for screen readers has been built in through third-party plugins and things like that. And Superblindman's been both really pivotal, both in working with the developers who have been building out those plugins, as well as just advocacy and awareness for the vision impaired community, to the point where he got a card reveal. I want to say it was a year or two ago. I don't remember exactly which set, but he gave a card reveal for one of the recent sets. And I know that there are a number of folks in our Discord who are vision impaired or sight impaired. And he was really a trailblazer for all those folks being able to enjoy the game along with us. So it's definitely a sad day, and it's quite a loss for the community. And really wishing all of his family and friends, all the condolences in the world, in this sad time.
Yeah, in the creator Discord, he also was really good about pointing out accessibility issues, things that other people wouldn't necessarily think about, and was always just such a positive presence. So absolutely will be missed.
One thing that I've really been struck by is how vibrant a community of visually impaired folks there is in the Hearthstone space, and some of that is due to Superblindman. I also know, though, that he inspired a lot of people to continue this work and take on the torch and keep advocating for accessibility in Hearthstone and in lots of other games as well. It's really amazing. If you don't know anything about this space, the amount of games that are starting to become playable. And I also have so much respect for, playing. Hearthstone's hard enough to play as it is. And I've been able to do some coaching with people who are using the accessibility mod for Hearthstone. And it's been really interesting to see how that works and how skillful they are with it and with the game and, an objective sense. And I know that we've tried to adjust some of the things that we do in our Discord to be more accessible, and really appreciate all of the advocacy work and anything that we can do as well. We want to do to help that cause.
Yeah, absolutely. So he'll be missed, but the work that he's done will definitely live on and whenever a game can be played by more people, it's just a good thing, right? Like getting more people into the community is always a good thing. So we thank him for everything that he did, and he's definitely gone too soon. But that's really all the news that we have. Again, just having been only a couple of days, but that means that just that much less time that you need to wait for us to start talking about new cards, especially the ones that you're hearing for the first time on this podcast. So let's get into that.
Hello. We are thrilled to have 4 Shaman cards to reveal to you today. So without further ado, here is Shaman's Demon Hunter Tourist Legendary.
Yeah, so Carefree Cookie is the legendary for one of the legendaries for Shaman. It is a Demon Hunter Tourist. It is Cookie the Cook that we know from, I believe it was the Badlands mini set, if I remember correctly, from United in Stormwind. That was the one with all the pirates, so it makes sense that a lot of these pirates are coming back. So he is a 3-mana 2/2 Murloc pirate, Demon Hunter Tourist. And it says, after a friendly minion dies, summon a random minion that costs 1 more. And he is definitely living his best life. He is sitting in a spa that's made up of a cooking pot with cucumbers on his eyes and enjoying a nice drink. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this is used. I mean, clearly you could have just a board of tokens and then trade them all off, and then everything effectively gets reborn, but better. And that's probably like the lowest, like the level 0 way that you can use this. I'm sure that there are some more ways to abuse this, but even just like having a board full of totems and the totems die, and then you're playing this as the totems are going to die, and you like bloodlust, trade some stuff off, and then or somehow buff them, whatever, and then trade them off, and then you get better things in their place. Like that's a good enough just on a baseline, but there are certainly things that you can do with with evolved mechanics that can get disgusting if you're really creative with it.
Well, and also, since this is the Demon Hunter Tourist card, Demon Hunter has often had things like Coordinated Strike, which summons 3 Illidari with Rush. So those you can rush in for trades and then get 3 2-drops, which is not bad value. I guess going really big, there's the card that summons 7 with circus performers or whatever.
Yeah.
Probably a little too expensive to be doing with this, but there's enough things in that theming with Demon Hunter that it seems likely you'll find some pretty good synergies to go with Carefree Cookie.
Yeah, this is something we'll definitely have to see exactly what we get from the Demon Hunter set, but even there are some Shaman cards that we have that could work with this. You can make sure that if you need to trade off a board, you still have a board that's even better. You could put this behind those 0/1 frog taunts. You could do it with something like Turn the Tides, where you have a rusher. If you get something large to die, that's even better. So, and pirates in general, you have lots of small minions that then having them regenerate into something bigger, especially if we get more pirate synergy from the Demon Hunter set, that could potentially be really powerful. And I just love the signature art for this card as well.
I mean, even like a ticking Ziliax, right, would be something that you could get down, and then the cost on board is not the cost that you use to play it. So you could get the ticking Ziliax down with one of the rushing modules, and then kill that off, and then get a really big thing to live in its place. So that's another thing that's a possibility there.
Yeah, this is something where you can't kill the rushing because it has Divine Shield on the same turn, but if you already have it down, or you protect this behind a taunt, you already have a board, then that could potentially be really powerful. And I'm sure we will get tokens from Demon Hunter given Patches the Pilot we have so far.
Yeah, yet to see the rest of the Demon Hunter cards, but we do have a few more Shaman cards to talk about here. These are 2 spells and an elemental. We've got Matching Outfits is a 4-cost spell, no spell school. Transform a minion into a random one that costs 1 more, then summon a copy of it. Natural Talent, a 3-mana nature spell that says get a random Naga and a random spell. They cost 1 less. And then Meltamental, 3-mana, 3/8 elemental taunt. This is permanently frozen, which is effectively the same as this minion can't attack, just kind of different flavor-wise. I suppose in Wild, there's a card that says minions can't be frozen.
Well, also the Death Knight is the tourist for Shaman, I believe, and
Yes.
Death Knight has cards that care about minions that are frozen on board.
So there you go.
So that is functionally different than can't attack. I mean, in most cases, and if you're playing it in Shaman itself, it probably is the same. But in Death Knight, it's actually matters for things that care about how many minions are frozen.
Right. I had a bit of a double take with Natural Talent because I was thinking Demon Hunter was getting this, but of course it's the other way around, that Shaman gets some Demon Hunter cards. So I can only assume that Demon Hunter is getting some more Naga support, maybe such that they think that you could use this along with those cards and some neutrals to do a Naga Shaman. But it does feel a little out of place on its own in Shaman.
I suppose there is some possibility. A lot of the other Shaman cards that have been revealed earlier this morning have to do with spells of different spell schools. Unfortunately, this one is not like Discovery of Magic in that you don't necessarily know that you're getting cards from spell schools you haven't already cast. But Naga, the Naga that you get probably will synergize well with having a lot of spells. This is a nature spell, so it has a spell school itself, although certainly there are lots of nature spells. It's not a spell type that's particularly hard to get, but there might be a place for it in that deck in particular. But it does, it's something that when you first see it, you're like, just put Naga Sharpshooter up on the screen.
Wrong class, wrong tourist.
Wrong class.
That tourist is lost somewhere. He meant to be the tourist for this class, and he's he went off the trail. So.
But of these non-legendaries, I kind of feel the most worried a little bit about matching outfits. It's very much not exactly high risk, high reward, but just has highest highs and lowest lows, perhaps, as Evolve is wont to do. But transforming a minion into one that costs more and then summon a copy of it, if you roll high, then you get to roll twice as high, right? Because you're getting that copy. 4 is a lot to evolve one minion. So it might just never really see play outside of being randomly generated or discovered. But it's the kind of thing where if there's a home for it, it's a little bit spooky.
Or if you evolve a 7-drop and roll Bran, then you're going to be sad.
Sure. But if there's ever situations, right, like if you're doing the ticking Ziliax where you rush it in, hit something, and then it's still alive because it had Divine Shield, then you play matching outfits and you get 2 10-drops. Like, that's scary.
Yeah.
And there are, it's something, it does curve nicely with Meltamental that, maybe you use that as a taunt, and then you can transform it into something that you'd prefer to have. Although if we're doing an elemental deck, you don't necessarily want to play this on 4 because it breaks your elemental chain. That said, in elemental decks, a lot of the elementals are a little understated. There's something that you wouldn't mind transforming, and it's a place where we've occasionally seen like muck pools run to transform things that are a little underwhelming on themselves. This is obviously much more expensive than muck pools, but you do at least get 2 of them. So I think you have to be doing this on something that's a little bigger for the 4 mana to be worth it.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it on Ticking Ziliax, maybe a giant. Most of the giants would just give you other giants, but a second giant, which is okay, but not super amazing. The elemental giant gives you a 9.
When has duplicating giants ever been a bad thing?
Yeah. I mean, if you're running sea giants, which you could in Shaman, right? Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
You could maybe get a Stitch giant, copy it, get another giant. The elemental giant costs 8, so then you get a 9-drop.
And if you get a big thing off of like a Corpse Bride, right? Like, that keeps the cost that's equivalent to the number of corpses, if I remember correctly. So
It does.
Yeah, so you could play a Corpse Bride. You could then matching outfits it, and then you have 2 10-drops or however big you manage to make it. Same thing with like Farmhand, right? Where is it Farmhand or the one where you summon you spend up to 8 corpses and you summon a random minion of that cost?
Corpse Farm.
Corpse Farm, yeah. So that also could be up. I mean, that's 7 mana right there, right? You spend 3 mana for the Corpse Farm, you spend 4 mana for the matching outfits. Now you have 2 big things.
Yeah, I think you're kind of demonstrating to me what the type of deck that's going to do this is here, like something that's heavy corpse spending to get something like a free Stitch giant, or those other targets you mentioned, and then do matching outfits. That's a little spooky.
And some of the other Shaman cards that we have that were revealed earlier, like Razzle Dazzler, is a 7 mana 4/4 that summons a bunch of 5 costs, but if that lives, then you can get a couple 8/8s instead of that 4/4, or one of the 5 cost minions that maybe was a bit of a low roll that it summoned. Now you can have 2 6-drops. It might be hard for them to clear the entire board, so you're likely to have something for that. Or Cabaret Headliner is a 4 mana 3/3 Naga. So she's something you'd rather have 2 5-drops than a 4 mana 3/3. So there are possibilities potentially even within Shaman if it's board-based enough and you care about really making that big board. I suppose those also are 2 Nagas that would be good hits potentially off of the natural talent, but it doesn't say a random Shaman Naga, so you're taking that into your own hands. And then with the Meltamental, there's an elemental deck maybe. We definitely have more elemental support in the neutrals for this set, like with Lamplighter is huge. It's basically Shock Spitter, which we talked about on the last episode. And then in Death Knight, like Snow Shredder is a 1 mana 4/4 if a character is frozen. And Slippery Slope draws a card for each frozen character. So those are things where having something with a big butt that's frozen might actually be helpful for you. That will do it for our reveal. So hopefully it was not confusing to have us mentioning some of the Shaman cards ahead of time. But now we will be talking about the Shaman cards, Warlock cards, and Death Knight cards that have been revealed. We are living in the future, so these are cards that are revealed on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, even though we're recording on Sunday. This is why we did not stream live this week.
Or release raw audio.
Yes.
But if you're a patron, you're still getting the full episode before when you would normally get the raw audio, so it works out. All right, so let's start with the other Shaman cards that were revealed before our reveal. So these mostly have a theme of spell schools. There was a Frost spell to add to the Frost spells, Frosty Decor, 5 mana Frost spell to summon 2 2/4 elementals with Taunt and Death Rattle, gain 4 armor. So potentially a nice defensive tool, but the really big news is Caress Cabaret Star, a 5 mana 5/5 legendary Naga. While in your hand, play 2 different spell schools to transform. This, I suppose, is really the big hit off of the natural talent card.
Sure.
Yeah, and so you play. It's the first 2 different spell schools you play while she's in your hand. She's not like continuing to transform as you play things, so it's different than I'm forgetting her name.
The mage one. Yeah, the mage one. Yeah.
So this is just the first two. It's more like Savara. Those effects are Arcane, draw 2 cards. Fire, deal 6 to the enemy hero. Frost, freeze 3 random enemy minions. Nature, gain +2/+2 and taunt. Holy, restore 6 health to your hero. Shadow, destroy 2 random enemy minions. And Fell, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. And this is also something that can go in Death Knight, because it is not the tourist.
Yeah. I think the one that's going to be the baseline is Nature, right? Gain +2/+2 and taunt. That's fine. 5 mana, 7/7 taunt. Sure. And then
when you're playing it in Shaman, it is, right? When you're playing this in Death Knight, it's going to be much more likely like Shadow Frost, right?
Sure.
Because that's going to be a lot more of what you're going to have access to, which, I mean, Shadow destroyed 2 random enemy minions. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And 6 damage to the enemy hero.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not bad. You have... Now, because it's the first 2 and not the last 2, you may not... you may just have to play a card. You may not always be able to get her exactly as you want her to be, but pretty much all of them are good. And you can think about the order in which you play things to try to get the specific one that you want.
One weird thing is that Arcane is going to happen least often, because it's just the hardest to get in both of those classes. You pretty much have to rip it off of Natural Talent or Siren Song, because any deck that would run the one Arcane spell that Shaman does have would not be running that many spells, because it is the stars.
Wish upon a star, yeah.
Wish upon a star, yeah. So, and in those decks, you want density of minions.
In Standard. In Wild, you have more options.
Sure. But
not many, but I mean, Devolving Missiles and Primordial Studies are cards you would play in a Shaman and Wild, probably.
Yeah, for sure. But I imagine Frost is going to happen a lot.
Yeah.
Nature is going to happen a lot for Shaman. Holy, maybe. I'm imagining if you're honestly either Shaman or Death Knight trying to do spell school things, you basically are running the tram mechanic for Fell, and you're running the Forge River Crocodile for Holy.
You have Molten Magma for Fire as well.
Yeah.
So that if you, especially for Death Knight, which is not normally going to have fire, that's potentially a way to get that.
Pyrotechnician?
Pyrotechnician's time to shine. Besides that 1 minute when it completely broke Druid.
Uh-huh.
That was really Thaddeus's fault more than Pyrotechnician.
Yeah, I mean, Pyrotechnician did nothing wrong. He was just an accomplice, but yeah.
Yeah. And we know that Razzle Dazzler, that's the 7 mana 4/4 Naga that summons a random 5-cost minion for each spell school you cast this game. That's basically Elemental Inspiration. We know that was a good card in several different versions of Rainbow Mage.
So, I mean, Elemental Inspiration was still they were 4/5s with a keyword, right? There's still more variance in 5-drops. So, I mean, I'm not saying that you're not going to play it, but we have to be a little bit careful when we're saying it's Elemental Inspiration, because Elemental Inspiration was pretty predictable what you were going to get. And this is a lot more variant. I mean, I'm just looking at what the, some of the high rolls and the low rolls are. I mean, getting an AFK off of that would be kind of bananas, right?
Oh yeah. That's going to be a Trollton for sure.
The range is AFK to Blood Treant, right? That's the range.
It's fine. If you get both, then the Blood Treant is at least a 4/4.
Right, yeah.
It fits Shaman in a way that there would be more variance there, absolutely.
But you also can get a Doom Guard, right? So,
yep.
That's pretty good. Or Greybow would be sick too, yeah.
It does have a little bit less variance than something like Matching Outfits, because it's not just one roll.
Yeah.
It's several rolls, and so probably they won't all be Blood Treants, although that's also a Trollton clip.
I wonder if you are running Muck Pools or something just for a little more redundancy.
Absolutely might be, because a lot of these are things that you want to be improving after you play it. So you might be running that.
Yeah, there aren't actually that many misses. I guess Rin would be kind of a miss.
Yeah.
Origami Frog's just going to be like a 1/4 rush. But I mean, you're getting a lot of 5/5s, 4/5s. There aren't too many Battlecry minions that are understated, so it's not too bad.
So in practice, it might actually work out better in certain ways than Elemental Inspiration, but less consistent for sure.
Yeah.
So you do have to be careful about what you're doing. In Shaman, you can also tutor the Cabaret Headliner and the Razzle Dazzler with the location, the Fairy Tale Forest location. Now, you're probably not running just those as your battle cries, but it is easy to get things. Actually, I just realized Shutterblock with Cabaret Headliner reduces the cost of a spell of each school in your hand by 6. So, Wish Upon a Star is 1 mana. You did have to play a 6 mana Shutterblock at some point first.
Shutterblock with Caress is kind of disgusting.
I guess it becomes a battle cry.
It becomes a battle cry. Yeah.
So you could you couldn't have fire because it wouldn't do anything, right?
That is true. Yeah, it wouldn't do 6 damage to the enemy hero, but you could get any of the other ones.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Because of the Shutterblock text.
Yeah, but you could get a big taunt, clear an enemy board. I don't think that's that impressive, but and I would assume, but been wrong before, that Shutterblock into something like Headliner is going to be too much work for some kind of spell damage OTK, but
probably too much work for an OTK. I think it would be more likely a Wish Upon a Star, although just paying 7 mana for Wish Upon a Star is less than first playing. You would need to have some reason to play it all in one turn. I guess Leroy, but that's still a lot of work for not that much damage.
Like, Shutterblock into Caress a lot of the time is going to be summon an 11/11 taunt and freeze the entire opposing board.
Sure.
So that seems okay. I think I would be okay with that.
Yeah, even if you're not running a ton of different spell schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious how good Carefree Cookie will be or not, because and like whether you just throw that into the like a spell school related shaman, I guess. So that's one thing is Death Knight won't get this, but Shaman will almost certainly have Fell, right, from Demon Hunter.
That is true. So it doesn't necessarily need to run Tram Mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I guess presumably Shadow as well. I mean, Demon Hunter typically sometimes gets Shadow.
They might make extra effort to do so.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Depends on how much they want to try to help this deck. If they think it's the same deck. Just one more thing on Cabaret Headliner. I just realized the actual curve is you don't bother with Shutterblock. You just Cabaret Headliner allows you to curve into Wish Upon a Star on 5.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's much better.
Yeah.
Though often you want to play Wish Upon a Star via Hagatha. So
true. Wouldn't help for that.
I was just looking at the Demon Hunter spells, and they only do have access to Fell right now. So I don't know if that's not been the case historically necessarily. Like there are some shadow spells, but right now they only have access to Fell.
But none of these are the Shaman deck that I'm most excited for, to be quite honest. I'm most excited for just playing Elemental Shaman.
Yeah.
Just playing Lamplighters. Yeah, I don't know if Meltamental goes into that.
I think it does, just because it helps you just really not fall behind on board. Taunts, when they're extremely efficient, do a good job of protecting your other minions. So, and if you are going to be a kind of more combo-ish, defensive-ish sort of elemental deck, where it's just like, my only goal, is to play an elemental every turn. Such that you get, a very large Scar, very large Lamplighters, and can, play Insidious and just keep those going. I am tempted. This probably isn't the same deck, but running Shutterblock to be able to like Shutterblock Insidious feels goofy.
I mean, yeah, maybe if it's a greedy meta, like if there's like a warrior where you just like you're gonna need more damage than you're just gonna get from the Lamplighters and the Scar, then maybe you're doing that, or maybe it is a different deck.
But I think even if you don't run Shutterblock, you run Insidious just cause it's an elemental.
Yeah, it's an elemental.
And you're happy if you hit those 2 damage cast wind drawns. And you're just like survive, and eventually Scar is gonna kill you or Lamplighter is gonna kill you.
And I mean, maybe you get close enough to the point where you have enough unique elementals that you could run Reno and run the double the size of all your elementals Death Rattle.
Well, you don't need Reno for that.
Isn't that also a Highlander effect?
No, it's not.
Therazane is the one that doubles the size of your elementals. She is just an elemental.
I'm thinking of the other one that discovers 3 and then
Hamul, or maybe that's not right, but
Marut.
Marut.
That sounds
Marut
right. Yeah.
Something.
That one is basically the effect of the 1 Excavate card.
World Pillar Fragment, is that the name of it?
Yeah, I don't think that's worth going for, but Therazane maybe. I mean, Therazane Meltamental, that's a big boy.
That is a big boy. That is hard to get through. And, if you play Insidious after, it just makes it even harder. Insidious has soft taunt, right? You have to kill that thing.
You're 420 Insidious. That's 420 Blaze It right there.
Oh, God.
That's where we're really getting it.
I do have one complaint about Meltamental, though, is that if he's continuously if he's permanently frozen, then when is he melting?
I had this same thought. It is a conundrum. Yeah.
I mean, I guess if he has big dreams, but then he'd be a hunter card. So,
all right, Warlock / kind of back to Rogue.
Yeah.
Warlock says kind of back to Rogue / looking ahead to Death Knight.
Yeah.
This is an interesting set to talk about because there's so many moving parts and there's so many you have to think about this card in different decks. So definitely, it must have been hard to get into the mindset of doing this when designing the cards because like every card is dual class in 2 directions.
Rather than just having 3 or something of dual class cards, it's just suddenly we're designing for everything except for a tourist, right? Everything except for one of the legendaries to function in this other class. So
maybe we'd start with not the tourist in Warlock, and then we'll come back to the tourist. There's a death rattle package and a self-damage package. So some of the self-damage package cards that we have, Fearless Flame Juggler is a 2-mana 1/1 demon. Battle Cry gains stats equal to the damage your hero has taken this turn. Some ways that you can deal damage to your hero. Party Fiend, 1-mana 1/1 demon that summons 2 1/1 fell beasts and deals 3 damage to your hero. So it's kind of a flame imp-ish. And Cursed Souvenir, 2-mana shadow spell, give a minion +3/+3, and at the start of your turn, deal 3 damage to your hero. You can heal up a bit with Health Drink, Lifesteal, deal 3 damage to a minion. The 3-mana Fells spell with 3 drinks. And what you're really potentially looking at, which is starting to get into the Death Rattle synergy, but Party Planner Vona, 6-mana 4/4 legendary Battle Cry. If you've taken 8 damage on your turns, summon Ouroboros. It's not Ouroboros, it's Ouroboros.
Oh, that's going to murder me all the time. I'm going to get that wrong.
Yeah.
Every single
I'm
time.
More wrong because the big bad in the Trails games is Ouroboros. So that's all I've been playing, all I've been hearing about for the last year. So it's definitely going to mess me up.
Ouroboros. Okay.
Ouroboros.
Yeah. Just
People were asking in the Discord, how do you say the plural of Ouroboros? And people are talking about, well, of course someone knew that in Greek you would take the O-S in masculine and make it O-I, so it'd be Ouroboy. But Hat's suggestion was Ourodos.
I like that one. Well, you may be dealing with multiples because since Rogue is touring in Warlock, yeah, maybe you run, some of the cards that deal damage to you. Maybe you run Party Fiend, but you've just got a dagger, and you hit things with the dagger, and you take damage.
By 6, you've taken 8 damage, and then you get an 8-mana 8/8 beast taunt, death rattle, give a minion in your hand, death rattle, summon Ouroboros.
And then you shadow step it, and then you breakdance it, and then everything summons 16 of them. Yeah.
It's going to be weird because it's like you summon the 8/8, right? But then the 8/8 also, if they kill it, will give a minion in your hand, death rattle, summon Ouroboros. So it's going to be this just awkward mess and dance of like, you could play Party Planner Vona, Shadow Stepper, then Ouroboros dies, and prints the death rattle onto Party Planner Vona.
Yeah.
You replay her, you summon another one. They kill that. They also kill Party Planner Vona, who summons another one. It's just, oh man.
Can I have Shard of the Naru back, please?
I'd be tempted to be right there requesting it with you, because this is a little
Unfortunately,
scary.
This is another reason to play Yogg, which I feel like is probably going to eat a nerf again.
Maybe.
But
I don't know.
Yogg only, if they're bouncing it, Yogg only helps against one of them.
True.
Yeah.
But if Warlock's doing this,
If Warlock's doing it, then it's going to be a little bit more fair.
Warlock is going
faster.
to try and double up.
Yeah.
they are going to try to double up with the Death Knight Taurus, Summoner Dark Marrow, 4 mana, 4/4 undead. Your death rattle's triggered twice. Destroy the death rattle minion when you play it.
That said, though, like that at least is counterable with Yogg because it's the one death rattle that's going off multiple times as opposed to multiple bodies with the same death rattle.
That's true.
Unless. So you've got Ouroboros, not Ouroboros, Ouroboros in play. And then you are able to trade it in. Now, this does mean that there's a window, right, for it to be dealt with. But Party Planner Vona can come down on 6, which is well before Yogg. So you've got Ouroboros in play. You've got something to trade it into where it'll die. So you play Summoner Dark Marrow, trade it in, and the death rattle goes on some cheap minion. You play that cheap minion. Now, what Dark Marrow says is after you play a death rattle minion, destroy it. I believe because that has this death rattle, would be considered a death rattle minion. So it would be destroyed immediately and summoned.
Wait, which one? The first one?
The
one
second
from
one.
Vona or the second one? Okay.
Right, the one from right. The one you're playing from your hand.
Yes.
So it would summon to Orobai.
Wow. I mean, I guess we probably do need to get confirmation on that because like the term death rattle minion has in the past meant different things.
Sure.
Sometimes it's meant a minion with a death rattle on it, and sometimes it's meant a minion that has the word death rattle printed on the card.
Sure.
It just feels to me it would be very silly and anti-synergistic to put this in and not let you have an Ouroboros synergy in the same set, right? Like that's your big death rattle is Ouroboros in this set. Now, it's a Death Knight Taurus. There's plenty of death rattles in Death Knight. There's Sacrificial Imp if it's your turn, summon a 6/6 Imp with Taunt. You also have Fellfire Bonfire as a Fell spell. Deal 4 damage to a minion. If it dies, your next death rattle minion costs 3 less. That one, actually, so that would make whatever, if it works the way that it seems likely to me to work, then whatever got enchanted by Ouroboros would cost 3 less. So it would be very quick to play.
But you know what else would work with is that might make Cagehead playable in Death Knight because you kill something.
No, you can't get Cagehead.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's the other way around. I keep getting that backwards, and it's very hard to keep. I'm sure that once we play with this, it's going to get a little more natural, but it's just like so easy to get this backwards.
Well, it'll just be in the deck builder or not in the deck builder, right? So it'll be easier that way. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
if we're saying other classes, not Warlock, right, then we go to Rogue. Rogue is looking at Fellfire,
Oh, God.
Bonfire, and the Death Rattle is Drilly.
It's Drilly.
That's the
Drilly.
Death Rattle. So
it's always Drilly. Yeah.
it's always Drilly. So yeah, 1 cost Drilly makes it much easier to then Shadow Step and replay said Drilly. It's even better than, I mean, it's not exactly earlier than using Frequency Oscillator, but it's a card I would rather have in the deck. I don't know if this will make it or not, but I could imagine a world where maybe you're like less of an all-in Excavate Rogue, but you run Fellfire Bonfire for Drilly, and Dust Bunny would also be free.
Yeah. Or we just get a Death Rattle Rogue again, right? Like that's the kind of thing that comes and goes every so often. I would imagine they probably try to be a little bit more careful with the Death Rattle cards they print.
Well, and they have been careful by making the Tourist a Death
Right.
Knight Tourist, and so Rogue specifically cannot get your Death Rattles trigger twice thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been very clever in what they make the effect of the tourist and what they make the cards that can travel, specifically to, I'm sure, keep those synergies under control.
And like, speaking of Rogue synergies, like the weirdest card that we haven't talked about yet is Announce Darkness, which is a riff on a very old, very bad card from Whispers of the Old Gods called Renounce Darkness. So Announce Darkness is a 2-mana shadow spell. Replace your hero power and non-warlock cards with warlock ones. They cost 1 less. That includes the hero power. If you play more than one of these, you do not get a 0-mana hero power, because what happens is that your hero power gets reset and then it gets a 1-mana discount enchantment attached to it. So your hero power will always cost 1. There's no way to get it to 0 with this. But
Yeah, so the second one is
Yeah.
completely useless unless you've somehow generated more new non-warlock cards. But yeah, this is a very weird spell. We were talking about some of this before. Before you get excited about Tess, it will also transform Tess and all of the rogue payoffs. So, but you can draw quickly. You know, if you get to a point where the rest of your deck is not going to help you, maybe it will now, and you can draw quickly through it with your 1-mana hero power. Or maybe you're Warlock and you play a few neutrals and you play this mostly just to get a 1-mana hero power. Could be strong. Potentially, maybe.
This is also a way to turn off things like plagues and TNTs. You'd probably run it at most in an ETC. I don't think you're running it unless there's like a heavy plague meta or a heavy TNT meta.
Or heavy incentive to have a 1-cost hero power.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, that's something that, you know, if you have stuff in your deck that you don't want to be in your deck, or if you just want to be able to re-roll what's left in your deck, then that's something. Also, it's worth noting, this will get rolled off of Yogg occasionally and is going to probably screw you. Because
Oh, thank goodness.
random Warlock cards are probably not better than whatever started in your deck. There are some good ones, but probably not. Like, I played a bunch of Renounce Darkness, and just getting a bunch of class cards in your deck and a cheaper hero power is not generally the upgrade that you would think it is. At least the Warlock hero power is good, as opposed to some of the other hero powers, which were terrible when you rolled into them. But just getting a bunch of random class cards is generally not the kind of thing you want to be doing with the rest of your deck.
At least this is all from the same class, so you're more likely to have synergy. Like you know, there's a lot of pain Warlock type of stuff in the meta right now. So at least it's all it's all Warlock.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is probably not something that you're running as your main game plan unless you just think it's really funny. But there could be a place to use it mainly for the hero power, and then maybe you have a couple of neutrals that are like good in the early game. You don't care about them in the late game.
Mm-hmm.
That you might want to reroll into something else. You're not playing this if there is a neutral that you really care about, like Reno.
Or Yogg, or Ziliax, yeah.
But one thing on the Death Knight turrets, you're death rattles trigger twice after you play a death rattle minion, destroy it, that you might be interested in is Death Knight. So Eliza Goreblade, for example, is a 4-mana 4/3 undead pirate legendary with a blood rune and a frost rune. Death rattle for the rest of the game. Your minions have +1 attack.
Oh dear.
You have, for example, Ghoul's Knight. Summon 5 1/1 ghouls that attack random enemies. That's a 4-mana 1 unholy rune. Those ghouls, the tokens don't say dies at end of turn, and they look different than the hero power ghoul. So they may survive if they hit face.
Yeah, it also doesn't say random minions, it says random enemies, so they can go face.
And if you have had Eliza Goreblade die, then that could be 10 face. Or 4 mana, potentially, if they have a clear board.
Or 15 if you've doubled the death rattle.
If you've doubled the death rattle, right, or you had Brittlebone Buccaneer, 2 mana 1/4 undead pirate, whenever you play a death rattle minion, give it Reborn. Eliza Goreblade had Reborn. And maybe you dummed her with Summoner Dark Marrow. Do note, if you are a Warlock and you play the Death Knight Tourist, you still have to follow all deck building restrictions, including rune restrictions. So you are following the runes with the cards that you're taking. The only one that matters for is that you can either play Eliza Goreblade or play Slippery Slope, which is 2 frost runes. A frost spell, freeze a character, draw a card for each frozen character. So, but you're probably much more interested if you're a Warlock in Eliza Goreblade. I don't think that's a huge sacrifice to not be able to play Slippery Slope in that deck.
If you're including Slippery Slope in your deck, your game plan is probably going downhill.
Unless maybe you're running Mental Melt. If you're including it as a Warlock, what are you doing? Yeah,
this is a pretty scary combination of things, though, right? Like, you obviously already have the Summoner because it's what lets you play the Death Knight stuff, but you have access to Fellfire Bonfire to reduce Eliza from 4 to 1. And then that will more easily allow you to, like, have all of these things in one turn, right? To have Brittlebone Buccaneer and Summoner Dark Marrow and Eliza. That probably most of the time will be a little too slow and you're going to want to get Eliza down as quickly as possible. But if you do kind of assemble those things and are able to get +3 attack on your minions for the rest of the game, like this gets so scary so fast with all these other things.
That's your hero power too. Your hero power is a minion with ++ attack.
If you're a Death Knight.
If you're a Death Knight, yes.
Yeah.
That's true. There's also if you pair like Ghoul's Knight with the new location Horizon's Edge, 4 mana, 5 durability, deal 3 damage, randomly split among all enemies after a friendly minion dies, reopen this. That might be more something that you're playing in Death Knight.
Yeah.
But even in Warlock, you could play Ghoul's Knight. The Party Fiend is 3 1/1s, although they don't have Rush. But if you're in Death Knight, you could do 15 damage randomly split among all enemies in one turn, potentially, if you combo that with Ghoul's Knight and have things to run into.
Or you just stuck a mining casualties the turn before and then use your hero power, right? Like there are things that, or not even the turn before, you could just play Horizon's Edge, let it sit on the board, and then you just play a bunch of stuff and then have it die on your turn. Like there's ways to get a lot of damage out of that without trying too hard.
Yeah, it's very interesting because unless you get pretty lucky, or I suppose unlucky depending on the situation, but it's hard to get a ton of face damage out of Horizon's Edge all at once, because if you are able to trade off friendly minions, that means they have something in play, and that means Horizon's Edge could hit that something in play. So if you're getting a lot of refreshes, then you're trading in one turn, then you're trading things off, and so Horizon's Edge isn't necessarily going face. But what you could do is just like not use it all at once, but just sort of end every turn by hitting them for 3, because you use it at the end and it's gonna refresh because you hero powered.
Absolutely, and that could go like with Corpsicle, which we had revealed in the announcement. which, you can be doing 3 damage, spending 3 corpses to return it to your hand at the end of every turn. You're doing that with Mining Casualties, even the 5 mana one that summons a bunch of 2/2s, Ghoul's Knight, lots of ways to get token, just your hero power. You could run CNE as a finisher if all of this doesn't work for some reason. The Corpsicle is a good corpse spender. You don't necessarily need to be running a bunch of other corpse spenders. So, the even Dreadhound Handler helps you get corpses. 2 mana, 2/2 Undead Pirate, Rush, Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Dreadhound with Reborn. It doesn't have Rush, but it's more corpses. So I don't know if we're playing that one, but it certainly is yet another way to make corpses, so it fits in that. There's also... Is there anything else we want to say about this before we go into the next sort of... There's a Frozen package.
Yeah, they kind of go together. In a few things work. Obviously not the Slippery Slope that we mentioned, but Frostbitten Freebooter is a 3 mana 2/2 Undead Pirate. Death Rattle, freeze 3 random enemies. Any that were already frozen take 5 damage instead. So since that's a Death Rattle, if you are a Warlock touring into Death Knight, then you can have this reduced to 0 by your Fellfire Bonfire and play it on the same turn as Summon a Dark Marrow as a potential burst or clear, right? Because it would die immediately, it would trigger twice, and so you would freeze 3 and then do it again, so those frozen things would all take 5.
That is, I was looking at that going, how do you make that work in Warlock? And it's absolutely because you're doing it twice. But you could also be doing that with buttons, which was the Shaman Tourist. If you are taking in, I suppose your only frost spell, Frosty Decor. Yeah, you have Meltamental, I guess, is your way to help have frozen things
helps,
if you have a
Shaman
Shaman
get
Tourist.
Frozen things on board. Yeah, but there's even the Frosty Decor, those don't freeze anything. The Frosty Decor is just getting you Death Rattles at game 4 armor, they look like they should freeze things because they're ice sculptures.
You know what we do have, though? Quartzite Crusher.
We do have Quartzite Crusher.
And Might of Menethil, for that matter.
And Frostbitten Freebooter says enemies, not enemy minions. So if you freeze their face with Quartzite Crusher and then you play Frostbitten Freebooter and it hits their face, then they take 5 damage.
Right.
That's pretty good. Yeah, you kind of have to get that all to line up, but it's only a 2/2. It's not that.
Yeah, that's one that I wonder if we'll see any more support for the freeze direction in a future set or not. I don't know if we have enough, but they're pretty powerful payoffs if you can make it work. So it's at least worth theory crafting.
Eliza is aggressive enough just by upgrading your hero power that I almost wonder if we end up with a 1 blood, 2 frost, just aggressive deck of some kind where you just take advantage of Quartzite Crusher and Snow Shredder being, a cheap 4/4 Slippery Slope, potentially with Might of Menethil, right, for a bunch of card draw. And maybe we have some kind of unique aggressive frost deck that way.
Yeah. I mean, you can run Northern Navigation too, which is a card that really hasn't seen a lot of play, which is a 2 mana spell that says discover a spell from your deck. If it's a frost spell, freeze a random enemy minion. So that's been around for a while and we haven't really used it. I don't think you could always go all in and play Frostworm's Fury. That's also a thing that you could do. I don't think it's worth it, but it's a thing that you could do.
Yeah, you wouldn't get Eliza or Quartzite Crusher in that situation.
Right. Yeah.
But you would get a lot of draw with Slippery Slope and Frostworm's Fury.
Yeah, with your 9 mana that you're spending for that, but sure.
Yeah, it's fine. You're just digging for burn, right?
Yeah, you're running Marrow Manipulator, which is also a corpse spender, although you can't do that with CNE, but you have lots of little things. So that's another way to do damage. Thessarian is just another aggressive card with a death rattle. So maybe there's something there.
I think the most important card for Death Knight in this expansion is Corpsicle, because it's simple. It's just a single Frost Rune, deal 3 damage, spend 3 corpses, return this to your hand at the end of your turn. So it's not like you can just loop it for 1 million damage in 1 turn, but that recursive damage, we've seen how with Frozen Touch, that kind of stuff can just end games. And the recursive corpse spending is very important for CNE. So having potentially both Corpsicle and, Foam Render, if you want to do Foam Render, it means that you don't necessarily need to have a ton of cards that say they spend corpses. Like, you can be more flexible with how you build the deck generally, because you have a couple things that will just continuously spend.
You could even, if you don't have many frost spells, or maybe this is your only one, play Harbinger of Winter to tutor it.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe this is the use case for matching outfits, right? Like, you can very easily with Corpsicle get a Stitch Giant down, right? And then
that you're thinking other way.
Back to the Shaman. I'm back. Oh, am I?
Because you can't get Stitch Giant and Shaman.
Oh, God Almighty! I am the worst.
Well,
okay.
Oh wait, no. Now I'm wrong. You were correct.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, no, I did it the right way this time. Yeah, because buttons get you Shaman cards, right? So now you have a lot of the Frozen stuff. You have Stitch Giants. Stitch Giants are free, and then you get to, what are they? Are they 8 drops or 10 drops? I forget what.
It's a 9, so you would get a 10.
9. Yes, you get 10s.
Which is not as good as if you got a 9 drop in a sense, because it's probably a giant, but you can get good stuff. So
yeah. I mean, you can get Ian. Oh well, no, you can't get Titans. So
you can't get ENR. I mean, thank God, right?
Yeah. I mean,
we don't need that high roll.
I'm just seeing
for sure not, but
a lot of damage, and I think that is going to compound for Death Knight.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we've we had 3 classes, plenty to talk about. And if you're wondering what happened to the tournaments, we did not have a chance to fully prepare the tournaments for you today, but we will probably, by the time we next record, we'll have the entire top 8 having played out. So we'll tell you about that whole process next week for the tournaments.
So that's going to do it for this week. Hope you enjoyed the card reveal and usual card discussion. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at Concede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. And write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. And if you would like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. So, Coin Concedes.
well, I'll concede a ridiculous hat, and I mean, not that we typically need a reason, but he also was pretty instrumental in getting us the cards that have not been revealed as of when we are talking to you on Sunday, but will have been revealed when you are listening to us on Wednesday, so that we can actually talk about those, because otherwise this would have been a considerably shorter episode than it is. So,
Yeah.
So big thanks to Hat to on a Sunday when we realized, oh crap, we don't have the rest of the cards. He was able to get those for us. Really, as always, we appreciate him.
Absolutely. And we really appreciate the opportunity to reveal these cards this time. It's never something that we take for granted. And if you are a creator, Hat didn't just share it with us, he shared it with everyone. Obviously, you won't be hearing this until Wednesday, but I should say he put it into the place where the creators can see it. And so that it would be fair. But yeah, we definitely appreciate having that when we do. I will coin concede to Walu. It's one of our producers who just got first time double legend in Twist and in Standard. And says, only fitting that I had to fight through an Unkiliax and a Marin against my final boss, and it's my birthday. So happy birthday, Walu. Congrats on the double legend. And congrats to World 8 for getting back in top 500 with that mech rogue. Actually, he has, because he always does, a slightly different version of the mech rogue that's more of a cycle mech rogue. So if you're interested in that, come into our Discord. Or World 8 decks in general. You can always find them there.
Oh, I am going to concede just to all the CMs. That included everyone who worked on the boxes for Whizbang that were a bit delayed, but finally came through. And oh my god, such a niche thing that they picked. So we got King Plush. That's for everyone. We also got a model miniature thing of Whizbang, not painted, because it came with a set of paints, Reaper Master Series paints, starter paint set. Perfect for role-playing and tabletop miniatures. And I will be curious how many of us in the creator program are actually going to paint these. Because
I looked at that and that's commitment. Like that's not a gift, that's an obligation.
I actually might, because my partner is talented at this. He does a lot of maker stuff, so doesn't necessarily do it frequently, but he has the skills and was like, I'm going to take stuff home and you're going to learn how to do this. I'm like, okay.
It is kind of soothing. You get into this sort of zen state of like just going in for the little details, but I hope that I won't have to do too much like mixing to get the right, because that's where it really gets like,
oh yeah,
oh man, you can take forever trying to mix stuff. But at some point, I definitely want to do it, just because I haven't done any kind of painting in a long time, and I enjoy painting when I have a guide. Painting when I have to create it full cloth from my head, I do not enjoy so much.
Yeah. I mean, my problem is that I have whatever the opposite of surgeon's hands are.
Uh-huh.
So I don't necessarily trust my own capabilities to actually make it look like it's not something that a 3-year-old threw together. But
yeah,
I might try it. The problem is that I already just restarted an expensive hobby in Commander, so like I don't know that I need another expensive hobby right now, but
you don't need to do any more. You can do the one and done, right? Just what they gave us.
Have you met me?
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I spent many months working on the like not Lego mosaic thing they gave us of Hearthstone. Had finally completed that and was happy. So I'm sure it'll take me like 6 months before I do this thing.
Well. So this is the kind of thing I'm either going to like not do, bail on it like a quarter of the way through, or it becomes a special interest. There are no other options, right?
Painting chainmail minis is really great. Or I guess they're not chainmailing, but painting miniatures is pretty fun for D&D.
It is a large miniature, so
yes.
You still need to get details to make it look nice, but at least you're not trying to get it in a teeny tiny little thing.
Tiny little D&D character avatar.
Yeah, quite a bit bigger than that.
Well, anyway, that is going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and chill out. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now.
I concede.
Well fought.
I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.